A U.S. merchant vessel, its steel hull dozens of centimeters thick, was torn apart as if it were paper under a relentless hail of gunfire. 7. 62mm rounds screamed across the air, glowing like fiery red streaks, embedding themselves into the deck like a meteor storm. 2 RPGs roared in succession, slamming into cargo hold number 4, ripping steel containers from their moorings and hurling them aside like flimsy cardboard caught in a violent gust. The sound of rending metal drowned out everything. The crew scattered in terror, their shouts mixing with the savage laughter of pirates. For the attackers, the ocean had delivered a prize, a vessel worth tens of millions, ripe for plunder. On the morning of July 18th, a heavily armed Somali pirate gang launched a lightning strike against the American ship. It was a civilian vessel, flying the stars and stripes, loaded with high-tech industrial equipment and traversing one of the deadliest maritime corridors on Earth, the waters off the Horn of Africa. The pirates came fast and hard in their speedboats, AK-47s clutched to their shoulders, RPGs slung under their arms. To them, this was supposed to be quick, a smash and grab, easy money. But they were wrong, fatally wrong. Less than 100 nautical miles away, hidden by the vast expanse of the ocean, lurked the USS Harry S. Truman, a $13 billion war machine, an aircraft carrier that was not just a ship, but a floating citadel of power. When the call came, the sea itself seemed to shudder. FA-18 Super Hornets roared into the sky, slicing through the air like jet-powered blades. For the pirates, the moment those engines screamed overhead, their fate was sealed. Their plan didn't just fail, it was annihilated. This was not merely a confrontation. It was fire from the heavens rewriting the rules of the ocean. If this story makes your blood surge, hit like, share, and follow. Because this is just the beginning. This is Savage Pirates of the Indian Ocean. May 9th, 2025. Waters off Puntland, Somalia. The Indian Ocean is a place where the boundary between trade and death is thinner than a salt-worn rope. Every vessel carries not only cargo but dreams, livelihoods, and the risk of sinking into a silent grave. Here, international law is a suggestion, and the only currency is risk paid in blood. For 30 Somali gunmen that morning, the horizon offered not a ship, but a floating bank. Their eyes locked on the biggest prize of their lives. The U.S. merchant vessel was massive, 217 meters long, displacing 45,000 tons. Its holds crammed with sealed containers worth more than $250 million. Inside lay dual-use electronic systems, military satellite modules, radar chipset packages, advanced navigation units, gear designed for aerospace and defense. This cargo wasn't here by chance. The containers had been pulled directly from a joint U.S. military depot in Djibouti, then rerouted through civilian shipping to avoid detection. A risky move, and the pirates had no idea what they had stumbled upon. Their speedboats fanned out, spreading into a crescent formation that surrounded the vessel. They wasted no time with threats or warnings. The first bursts of AK-47 fire shattered the silence, bullets striking the hull like a wake-up call to the ocean itself. Moments later, an RPG whooshed through the air, detonating among the containers. The blast shook the ship violently. Lights on the bridge flickered red before stabilizing. Bullets chewed through steel bulkheads. The crew scrambled for cover. A sailor went down with a shoulder wound, collapsing onto the deck and rolling dangerously close to the edge before being dragged back by his shipmates. Blood slicked the steel floor. The deck trembled with the rhythm of death approaching. Captain Keene knew the truth. They couldn't hold. The vessel had no real defenses, only a few old pistols and shotguns meant to deter, not to fight. His instinct told him this wasn't a battle they could win. It was a battle to survive. He slammed the intercom switch to Channel 2. His voice, though low, carried steel. "Citadel. Now, get the injured inside. Seal the doors. The Citadel, an armored panic room built deep into the ship's core, reinforced to withstand small arms fire, fire damage, and even breaching attempts for up to 3 hours. It had its own air system, emergency power, secure, satellite comms, and, most importantly, the ability to transmit a Tier 1 military distress signal. The last door clanged shut. Silence fell inside, the sounds of chaos muffled, but no one felt safe. All eyes fixed on a small display screen, waiting for the indicator light to switch from yellow to red. Red meant the signal had gone out. Red meant the right hands now knew, hands powerful enough to decide their fate. The rescue operation. The signal flashed through secure satellites, rerouted directly to the USS Truman, operating off the Seychelles. Within moments, its tactical map lit up with the coordinates. Calculations ran, priorities updated. Response time, under 35 minutes. No margin for delay. On the flight deck, the beast stirred. Elevators carried aircraft from the hangar to the open air. Rotors spun, whipping salty spray into violent arcs. Crew members rushed in choreographed precision. MH-60 Seahawk helicopters were rolled into launch position. Their FLIR cameras gleamed. Under the morning sun, their rocket pods and door-mounted machine guns freshly loaded. Beside them, 2 AH-64 Apache gunships crouched like predators. Mechanics checked the M230 chain guns slung beneath their noses, the barrels glistening with oil, ready for low-angle assault. The morning haze clung to their steel skins like war paint. The ocean had chosen its battleground. The pirates thought they were hunters. They were wrong. They had just become prey. Hellfire missiles, bolted to the sides of the Apaches, powered, up with a low mechanical hum. Duty pilots strapped into their cockpits, faces hard, unreadable, their eyes locked on the mission ahead. Inside the staging bay, 3 MH-60 Blackhawks stood ready, pre-flight checks complete. Their cabins were packed with Special Forces operators, men clad in SPI body armor, HUD-integrated night vision goggles glowing faintly green, rifles locked and loaded. At their belts hung thermal breaching charges, repelling ropes coiled like snakes, and combat blades polished to black steel. No words were exchanged. None were needed. Every soldier's gaze was fixed forward, each man already inside the fight, in his mind. In the carrier's combat command center, screens flickered with infrared feeds relayed from a circling UAV. The hijacked merchant vessel stood out clearly in the black waters. Heat signatures lit the deck. 18 armed men in a staggered tactical formation. Each carried long guns. Below deck, an oval-shaped heat cluster glowed steady. Crew members huddled together, alive, hidden beneath layers of containers. The pirates had not found them. Yet. The order was issued, carried through encrypted high-frequency transmissions below the sea's surface. The helicopters lifted off. Their rotors thundered against the night, pressure waves rolling across the ocean for miles. The formation skimmed low, hugging the waves to evade radar. Salt spray lashed against their armored skins as their flight. Path locked directly onto coordinates from the UAV. No guesswork, no hesitation. Every maneuver guided by high-speed algorithms. The pirates never heard them coming. Out of the mist, the first Blackhawk emerged, its hull wrapped in infrared scattering, paint that turned it into a ghost. The door gunner swung his weapon into position. Tracer fire erupted, slicing through the dark, streaks of fire stitching the deck. Containers sparked and split apart as bullets ripped through makeshift cover. Pirates scrambled, but the steel around them lit up red-hot, glowing like fresh wounds carved into the ship's body. Then the Apache descended. Hovering at a punishing angle, its M230 chain gun dropped its barrel. The cannon barked. Bursts of 30mm shells ripped into the corridors between containers, shredding shadows into screams. One pirate, clutching a crude, explosive rig at the Citadel door, was caught in the blast. The impact hurled him sideways, smashing his body into a stairwell before he crumpled lifeless, blood seeping into the ship's grooves. The Blackhawks moved in, doors sliding open mid-air, ropes unfurled. One after another, operators slid down, boots slamming onto steel. The deck became theirs in seconds. The strike team spread out, weapons raised, sweeping through the maze of containers. Every heat signature marked earlier by UAV was engaged with precision. Double taps hammered into chests. Pirates dropped fast, their weapons clattering uselessly to the ground. At the Citadel door, the breaching team pressed shaped sensors to the hinges. A muffled pop. Bolts shattered. The heavy steel door swung wide. Light spilled into the chamber, slicing the darkness like a blade of liberation. Operators surged inside, weapons sweeping corners. 2 layers of dust shield troopers secured the corridor. The crew emerged one by one, dazed, pale, their eyes blinking against the flood of movement. They had survived the storm, but barely. The injured were rushed onto medevac stretchers. Others, still shaken but standing, followed silently along the cleared corridor. As they walked, their eyes passed over the chaos that had been their prison, spent casings thick on the floor, blood pooling in grooves, a shredded American flag picked up from the deck, its corner darkened by blood. The UAV, circling far above, continued to feed images back to the carrier. Not far from the strike zone, the coastline glowed with hostile signatures: a refueling station, an ammunition dump, and a concealed shelter. The coordinates were flagged in red, marked for immediate engagement. Retribution was coming. From the deck of the USS Truman, FA-18 Super Hornets stood armed and ready, lined like sharpened blades under floodlights. Engines screamed as afterburners lit. The colossal carrier shook as each jet thundered off the deck, launched not as planes, but as bullets chambered into the world's deadliest weapon. In the Combat Information Center, radar displays glowed, pale green. The coastal base appeared, a cancerous sprawl of fortifications hugging the water's edge. Hidden camps, ammunition bunkers, and clusters of fast attack boats filled the labyrinth. Camouflage netting draped across hardened shelters, thorn scrub clawed the perimeter, and muddy ditches cut across the terrain. To the untrained eye, it was invisible. To American eyes, it was already dead. Above it, MQ-9 Reaper drones circled silently, their sensors stripping the base bare. Every radio call, every heat signature, every hidden corner had been mapped, tagged, and assigned coordinates. Nothing remained unseen. The first strike came without warning. 2 FA-18 Super Hornets slashed through the night sky at low altitude, their silhouettes slicing the stars apart. They released GBU-12 laser-guided bombs, each one locked precisely onto the base's eastern flank. Impact. A blinding flash erupted. Fire rolled outward like a tidal wave, ripping the depot open. The logistics hub became an inferno. Fuel tanks ruptured in violent succession, each explosion louder than the last. Fireballs roared into the night, steel drums turned into shrapnel rockets, screaming into the sky before crashing back down as twisted, flaming debris. The base burned like a wound carved into the earth. And the strike was only beginning. The Hornets descended again, their cannons sharp as daggers driving into the base. Tracer fire slammed into tree trunks, tore through tarpaulins, and shredded the bodies of those too slow to escape. Thick black smoke erupted upward, coiling into the night sky like the very soul of the base being dragged into oblivion. The third Hornet banked low, its afterburners screaming along the sandy shoreline. 2 Hellfire missiles dropped from its pylons, streaking across the sky like predators unleashed. On the ground, a pickup truck reversed wildly, tires spinning. Furiously in the sand, it never had a chance. The missiles struck in a blinding instant. An eruption of flame hurled the vehicle into the air, twisting it into a spinning fireball. 2 gunmen clinging to its bed were torn loose, flung into the darkness like cut marionettes. Nearby, a command bunker hidden beneath netting and dead branches vanished under the concussive might of a CBU-87 cluster bomb. Thousands of razor-edged bomblets fanned out, shredding everything within 70 meters. The air itself seemed crushed by the pressure wave, pressing down like the hand of a giant. The force silenced even the screams. At the shoreline, pirate refueling boats lay tethered like prey. Precision strikes ripped through their hulls. Explosions ripped the craft apart, hurling splinters of wood and shards of steel across the beach. One fireball licked the edge of an RPG cache. Seconds later, a chain reaction erupted, an apocalyptic detonation that swept away an entire row of container structures. The blast left nothing but twisted steel wreckage, warped like cages melting in a furnace. The UAV, circling at 10,000 feet, sent back the aftermath in brutal clarity. The base looked flayed open, like the peeled skin of a dead beast. Blood red. Fires crisscrossed the ruins like a spider's web of destruction. Every antenna, every transmitter, every command post was leveled. On the thermal display, the last fading signatures of human life flickered, then disappeared one by one. The battle ended without surrender, without even a horn to mark defeat. Only the hiss of burning fuel and the acrid stench of scorched metal remained. What had been a hub of piracy was now nothing but blackened ash and silence. Those who survived did so buried beneath rubble, swallowed in graves of their own making. No signals, no counterattack, no resistance. It was as though the base had already resigned to death before the first strike fell. Such is the fate of those who provoke the #1 power on Earth. When the final explosion faded, satellites confirmed the truth. The largest pirate fortress in Somali waters was gone. Where once a sprawling network of depots and camps had thrived, only a few jagged steel frames jutted upward like broken arms reaching helplessly at the sky. No retreat, no survivors, no defiance. There was no press conference, no official declaration of war, but the message was unmistakable. One that shook the entire Indian Ocean. Crackling pirate radios carried the whispers, their strongest base obliterated in one night. Suspicious boats that lingered along shipping lanes abruptly turned back, vanishing from radar. Makeshift workshops along the coast closed in panic. Fuel depots were abandoned and burned by their own operators, erasing evidence in terror. Without orders, the pirate networks began to collapse. In Mogadishu, politicians and warlords who had once offered protection to the pirates no longer dared meet in public. USS satellites even tracked ammunition shipments destroyed mid-route by their own buyers, desperate to avoid implication. Ports, once flush with ransom, money fell silent. Villages that had once cheered the capture of Western ships now peered nervously out at the horizon, wondering if a Reaper drone circled invisibly above them. International media barely gave it. A headline: U.S. merchant vessel rescued, pirates repelled. But in the shadows of arms dealing, human trafficking, and smuggling, the story spread like a curse. No one dared name the aircraft carrier. No one spoke of the Hornets or the Blackhawks. They only whispered, "We provoked the wrong opponent." All events described above are simulated, hypothetical, and analytical.